Well, first and foremost, it was a great opportunity for me to see His Excellency President Tinubu, to personally commend him for the thoughts and the ideas that he has brought to the summit right here in Paris. Of course, I'm here in Paris, and so we discussed so many things. But first and foremost, I think I commended him for his boldness, his vision, his determination with regard to having macroeconomic stability and fiscal stability for Nigeria. And as you know, I spoke at the inauguration lecture for His Excellency the President. I commended his boldness in removing the very inefficient fuel subsidies that Nigeria has. And no bird can fly if his wings are tied at his back. And therefore, that would really help Nigeria significantly. And I think the whole issue of correcting the exchange rate distortions that Nigeria has will also free up the access to Forex and also make Nigeria's currency much more competitive in terms of export competitiveness for the things that we produce. All those are right signals that the President is sending, which the investors like, with the international community likes, which will also attract significant amount of investment into Nigeria. I discussed with His Excellency the President about a couple of things. First, of course, is agriculture, to see what we can do to support the government with regard to the Mr. President's vision in agriculture. We discussed about special agro-industrial processing zones, for which we already have about $520 million for Nigeria, and how we are going to make sure that that project actually gets accelerated to give quick wins to the President. The other one that we talked about is the power sector. How we will bring support to support his efforts and his vision and that of his government with regard to how to improve the access. The President wants to make sure that there's access to electricity in Nigeria, and therefore he talked to us about how we can support him in that, and I gave him the assurance that we will support significantly the power sector in Nigeria. I discussed with the President also with regard to the industrial sector in Nigeria. I was impressed with his vision in terms of trying to grow industrial sector in Nigeria and to also have an export-oriented industrial manufacturing stance, which is very important for growing the Forex for Nigeria. As I said to the President, we have to grow the Forex for Nigeria, as opposed to just distributing small amount of Forex that is available, have a more expansive view. The Excellency has that expansive view, and I was quite impressed. And finally, we discussed about the youth. I've heard him speak quite a lot about young people, his heart for young people and what he wants to do to support them. And he asked for our support with regard to what we can do for Nigeria on that. And I explained to the President that we will support with the establishment of youth entrepreneurship investment banks in Nigeria. These are going to be new financial institutions that will support the access to financing at scale, both whether it is in terms of debt or equity financing for businesses of young people in Nigeria. He has a desire to grow the wealth for young people, which is actually very good. And just to close, I had the opportunity just to commend him for what he said and the positions he took here at the summit on two critical issues. One of that has to do with the importance of using Nigeria's gas to manufacture fertilizers. And I think his position was supported by the Chancellor of Chancellor Scholz of Germany on the need for using natural gas. You can use that for also producing fertilizers, which we need to raise productivity, which is very, very important. And the other one, which I think it's very important that the President took a position on here, which was very well supported, is the whole issue of energy transition and the fact that Nigeria has gas, and Nigeria should use its gas to power its economy, while having in mind, of course, the need to transition over time. But you cannot transition. To transition, you have to transition for what you have. You can't reuse from what you have. And I think that was a very pragmatic approach taken by the President. And I did let the President know that I applauded that, because that's pragmatism. And while realizing that even if, as I told him, even if Africa uses all the gas that it has today, it will only contribute 0.4% additional to global emissions. So the President is very focused on these issues, clearly very focused on how to also provide access to clean cooking energy. I was impressed with what he said to me about his desire to have access to clean cooking energy for millions of Nigeria, and that's really very good. So all in all, it was a great opportunity for me to see him. Since the inauguration, I haven't had the opportunity to see him, and I commended him, and obviously I was very pleased and delighted with the outcome of our conversation. So we decided that we will support his efforts, special agro-industrial processing zones in Nigeria massively. Already we have about $520 million dedicated. We want to do more. Governor of Ogun State was with me in the discussion, Governor Abiodun, and we talked about that a lot. So the president is very determined to have a lot more special agro-industrial processing zones in Nigeria, and the African Development Bank is ready to support that.
We would like to know maybe some of his responses to all these issues.
Well, first and foremost, the president was very, very pleased with our conversation. He said that he looks forward to concretizing this into operational things we can do very, very quickly. He gave directives for how we will get that done, and I will deploy teams of our staff to that. The president was highly supportive of special agro-industrial processing zones for Nigeria. The president is very supportive of also getting young people into agriculture in Nigeria. The president said he was very supportive of having reforms of the financial sector to modernize agricultural lending in Nigeria at scale. The president was very supportive of the need to turn Nigeria into a massive wheat production country, because I shared with him the experiences in Ethiopia, where the African Development Bank support to Ethiopia allowed Ethiopia to become a net exporter of wheat in just 3 years. And so the president said he wanted to see that also in Nigeria. And finally, the president, of course, said he was very supportive of the Youth Entrepreneurship Investment Bank for Nigeria. So, I mean, it was a very, in fact, I thought it was going to be like a 15-minute courtesy call, but he gave all the time. He listened, we discussed, we exchanged our views, and I could see his heart and passion and commitment. So I'm leaving quite delighted from the conversation.
We hope to realize all the issues.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.